Knowles.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you, pal.
Long time no see.
Actually, now that my throat is somewhat back, we've actually been able to share an occasional cigar.
Finally,
again.
yeah, we got to make up for lost time.
That was, this book. I got to tell you, this Another Kingdom thing. This almost killed me, and it was both physical and mental. The mental stuff, it turns your brain to mush. But the physical stuff too, you just get worn down.
This is my favorite kind of work because people come up to me and very often they'll say, "Oh, I love your show." You'll say, "Oh, really? You like it?" They'll say, "No, not your show. I love Another Kingdom that you do." And I'll say, "Oh, that's great." And obviously the audiobook is doing well, the printed book is doing well, and it's the kind of work where I come in and I just sort of read the words and then I get to leave and have a cigar. And you do all the actual work for now years.
Well, you've got a great part this time.
Excellent.
You do. Yeah, it's a good story. I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with the weirdest thing. It's been the weirdest thing because it's been all like kind of given to me, kind of. Yeah. It makes a great big 1,000-page story. Well, when all the three pieces are put together, it really does, and each story is different and richer and more interesting. So
it is. I mean, I love doing the second season more than I love doing the first season.
I love the second season too.
Yeah. It's like The Godfather. Hopefully, part 3 won't be like part 3 of The Godfather. But
that's true. That's true. But at least if we can kill the Pope or try to save the Pope. I always love that. The mafia saves the noble mafia saves the Pope. I didn't even know who to root for at that point. So let's talk about the last time a president was under fire like this. Let's talk about Watergate.
Because everyone's talking about Spygate.
Yeah.
What is the left is denying that any spying happened in 2016 in the Trump campaign. We know that there was spying. The Attorney General of the United States said very clearly there was spying. The question, of course, is whether the spying was appropriate, whether it was adequately predicated. And there are all these comparisons to Watergate. Spygate is much, much worse than Watergate. The spying of the Obama administration, there is no question, it is so much worse.
If it's shown to be illegal.
If it's shown to be improper, inappropriate, inadequately predicated, which appears to be the case.
Yeah.
People don't really remember what Watergate was. What was Watergate? In 1972, the Nixon campaign team, the Committee to Re-elect President Nixon, had broken into the Watergate complex, which was the DNC headquarters, and they stole some documents and they bugged some phones. Then on June 17th, 1972, it became clear that the bugs that they had put into place didn't work because they were pretty incompetent on the Committee to Re-elect the President, on the dirty trick side of it.
Right.
So they sent more burglars in to go in and fix the bugs. They go in and they were so stupid that when they taped the doors open, they didn't tape them straight up and down so you couldn't see the tape. They taped them around the side of the door. So any security guard walking by is going to see the tape, which is exactly what happened.
Right.
These idiots, the three stooges, the five stooges, go in there, they tape the doors wrong, the security guard sees it before the burglars can get out, the cops are there and they arrest them.
And this is, just to be clear, these are from the Committee to Re-elect the President. These are not government officials.
These are not government officials. These are hired hands, hired dirty tricksters who barely had any connection even to the campaign. And it gets even better than that. These guys were so stupid that, and they were so disconnected, by the way, from the White House, that one of the reasons they connected them to Nixon is because they had the number of their handler in the Nixon campaign in their personal belongings at the
gang
time.
that couldn't shoot straight.
That's right, yeah. So after this, they get arrested, and Nixon knows nothing about this. Even the Watergate chief prosecutor was certain that Nixon knew nothing about it. When Nixon first heard of the break-in, he asked his chief of staff, H.R. Haldeman, who was the a-hole who did it. He was really upset about it.
Yeah.
So then at this point, this is where the crime comes in, as he tries to cover it up. So he calls the CIA. He asks the CIA to get the FBI to stop investigating Watergate. He pays hush money to these burglars. So the committee didn't even know, really, these burglars that well. So they're trying to pay them off so that they can keep silent. And they have all of these tapes because Nixon had been secretly recording everything that he said in the White House.
Right.
So he's trying to exert executive privilege. He's trying to stop turning the tapes over. Eventually, the tapes are ordered by the Supreme Court to get turned over. He turns over the tapes, he hands his executioners the instrument of execution, and he resigns in disgrace.
Now, so what does he resign over? What is it? What are the charges they bring? Because they brought impeachment charges against him.
Yeah.
And he resigned.
And he resigned.
Right. So what were the charges they bring against him?
For the cover-up. So it's not for the break-in. It's for the cover-up. It's for obstructing justice. Fair enough. He was a secretive guy. He was a dirty trickster. Nobody's defending Richard Nixon's character in that regard. However, that is a very limited scandal that overturned, by the way, a landslide election. He won the 1972 election with 49
He won
states.
every state but Massachusetts.
But other than Massachusetts.
And I'm not even sure Massachusetts is still in the part of the country.
Technically, it's not even a state. It's a commonwealth.
That's right.
So at this point, you've got this basically limited burglary, limited break-in, bungled by idiots. And you actually, ironically, or coincidentally, I guess, you had the deep state, the deputy former associate director of the FBI, Mark Felt, codenamed Deep Throat, leaking the information of this all over the press. And Woodward and Bernstein obviously get the most credit.
And once again, we have to say that John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson lied and covered up and prosecuted the Vietnam War in ways that the country would not have allowed had they known what was going on. And, you know, they made that movie, The Post, which has one honest scene in it. It actually had a couple honest scenes where they said, you know, we never covered Kennedy like this because he was our pal, because we were over in Hyannis. We were, you know, so it was, they had personal animus against Richard Nixon. I mean, it was deep.
And they had hated Richard Nixon from the beginning. I mean, first of all, when you talk about Kennedy being crooked, very likely stole the 1960 election from Richard Nixon. And the left and the media and they had hated Richard Nixon since the 40s, because in the 40s, they had a beloved State Department official, Alger Hiss, who was accused of being a Soviet spy.
Everyone should know this story.
And nobody remembers this, but Alger Hiss was accused of being a communist, a spy in the State Department. He was instrumental in the foundation of the United Nations. And a former colleague of his, a former comrade of his in the Communist Party USA, Whittaker Chambers, accused him. Nobody believed him except for Richard Nixon. And Richard Nixon pursued it, and he was right. And they convicted Alger Hiss, and the left never forgave him. So they went in, using the power of the government, they overturned this election, they wreck his presidency. Okay, that's Richard Nixon.
But we should pause there for just, and everybody who has not read the book by Whittaker Chambers, Witness, it is a life-changing book. It's a beautiful, beautiful
and it's
piece
such
of
an important, for American conservatives in particular, you've got to read this.
I think it's like a founding, it is it's a founding book. But you have to understand that this Alger Hiss was a communist. And he was in the State Department. He was everything that Joe McCarthy was saying existed, right? And the people who supported him on grounds of class, and they supported him because they had been communists too, and they thought this was the wave of the future, and I've seen the future and it works, and we're not going to talk about, so they starved a couple of 10 million people, you know.
Gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet.
And so they really were covering up, and Nixon made them all look like fools. He was a squirrely little guy. He was a weird, squirrely little man, no question about it. A very brilliant man. And he was kind of a liberal president. I mean, this is one of the things when you look back, when I look back on him, I think, but they hated him like fire, the way they hate Trump. But in those days, you see, this is one of the things, like in those days, it was like under the radar. First of all, there were 3 television stations. There were 3 television stations, and that was the news. There was no Rush Limbaugh. There was no us. There was none of that stuff. So you got the news from these 3 places. And Nixon, whatever else you say about him, he had a sense of honor that he's resigned because he didn't want to tear the country apart. Now, the one thing we can say about Donald Trump is he has no sense of honor. And so when you see right-wingers saying good, that's why. That's why they, I don't think it's good that the president has no sense of honor, but I think it's good that he would never resign because these clowns don't like him after they covered Barack Obama like he was the son of God.
In the case of Nixon, they stole the 1960 election from him. And for the good of the country, because he had class and dignity, he let it go. He didn't challenge it.
But with mobsters, they stole,
And then 1972, they go after him again because they never forgave him for Alger Hiss. For the good of the country, he resigns, lets it go. Compare that to Spygate. Compare that to what has happened now. President of the United States, Richard Nixon, never weaponized the federal government to spy on his opponents, to break into their headquarters. In the case of Spygate, just hear the facts. Attorney General Barr believes spying did occur. during the 2016 presidential race.
Even the New York Times reports spying.
Even the New York Times will admit it. And as the AG said, spying on a political campaign is a big deal.
Right.
What was the spying? The FISA warrant on Carter Page, a low-level Trump campaign associate, was the predicate for surveillance on the Trump campaign. The question is whether that was legitimately obtained. We know from texts between Lisa Page and Andy McCabe that the bias of sources discussion was being debated just days before the FISA warrant application was submitted. They had trouble getting these FISA warrants through, and a very small number of these are rejected, a very large number are accepted. They still had trouble getting it through. What was the warrant based on? From everything we know, it was based on the Steele dossier, which was bought and paid for by the Clinton campaign and the Democrat National Committee.
Research by way of Russia.
By way of Russia. Yeah. We got the information, the Steele dossier, the FBI got it from Russia. Now, what is the excuse for this? John Brennan, CIA director under Obama, James Clapper, DNI under Barack Obama, say it was just a standard counterintelligence operation. They were just trying to protect Trump because there might have been a spy. Obvious BS. If that were the case, they would have told Trump. They would have warned him. They would have worked with him. They would have allowed him to get these guys out of his campaign. Yeah. They didn't do that because they weren't just having a standard operation here. They were targeting the Trump campaign. And increasingly, by the way, they're talking about the contacts between some low-level Trump campaign officials and Russia. Increasingly, it seems that those contacts were set up by the intelligence community.
Yes, I know. If this plays out, and if it's as bad, if it is as bad as Sean Hannity says it is, and some things are, occasionally Hannity goes off, but when in the Duke rape cases, he was right straight. He should have won a prize for that, and he didn't. If it's even half that bad, this is way worse than Watergate. That's what I want to hear. Carl Bernstein, who always says everything is worse than Watergate. This is worse than Watergate.
And it's a comparable case. It's just so much worse. On the point of Sean Hannity, I talk to Dan Bongino sometimes. Yeah. He wrote a whole book about this. Yes. First time Dan told me about this, I thought, oh, okay, I don't know if this is... And then week after week, more of what he says keeps coming true.
It is amazing. What are you talking about on your show?
Today we're going to be talking about how pride became not the queen of all vices, but the most wonderful virtue in our entire society. Because it's Pride Month, Drew.
Now it's the vice of all queens.
Now it's the vice of all queens.
I couldn't resist. Don't write. I just. All right.
I can't top that.
No, that sounds good.